again, not to take away from DC or anything here, but one thing I think they've done right was they cast Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman. I think she was perfect. I think she did a great job. Chris Pine, great actor.
Chris Pine was one of the bright points of the movie.
He definitely carried it, and Tom said earlier that it felt like a Chris Pine movie because he was carrying the story, and he was like the way they've set the story up. He's the reason why she leaves the island. Without him, she's still literally stuck on the island, right? So,
and it's kind of sad or upsetting. I don't know the right word for that. For whoever wrote this movie, clearly men wrote this movie, because even though it's a Wonder Woman movie, it's female led. They still needed a man to basically save the day. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, that's true. I can actually agree with that a little. Yeah.
And it's kind of, I think it takes away a lot from the whole empowering women kind of thing, because still need a man.
Yeah, like when Chris Pine at the end sacrifices himself to destroy the bioweapon that they created, like, if you want to objectively look at what happened at that moment,
he felt like the real hero.
He did. He saved from the perspective of casualties and who he actually saved. He saved more people with his actions than, I'll say potentially, than Wonder Woman did killing Ares.
But you can kind of argue the fact that her purpose from the beginning of the movie to the end was to defeat Ares, not really save the people. That was more of Chris Pine's goal in the movie, right?
That's true too, yeah.
In a way, back to the whole male-led kind of thing, she was there. She started off the whole, I guess, assault on the trenches, but who does most of the work afterwards? She's there shielding when the rest of the guys come in and take over the trenches, right?
It's so weird. Like, it goes both ways. It's like a back and forth. Like, regardless of anything one of us says, there's always a rebuttal for it, and it's like men, women. It keeps going back and forth.
Yeah, it's hard not to address these things, right? It's like it's an elephant in the room. Like, you don't really want to say it's man versus woman in this, but in the movie there was these instances where she's she is the leader. Well, I'll say leader, but like I'll say leader. She was like the leading and boosting morale and like just taking over the scene, both in the movie and like as acting and in the situation itself. And then there's times where almost an equal split, if not maybe favored. Okay, that's not fair.
I felt like it was favored for
Chris Pine, right?
So Steve Trevor.
Yeah, I'm not going to break this down like mathematically, but it felt like it was a 50-50 split here, right? Like, you just didn't know who was taking the lead in which scenes that were going on. Like, it would just kind of seesaw back and forth. Maybe that's what they were trying to go for, this dynamic where she's learning about mankind and learning about falling in love for the first time with a man, the first man she sees. But I can't basically I can't tell if this was intentional or it was just a product of what just came from story writing.
Well, whether it's intentional or not, you kind of expect a movie named after the main character, Wonder Woman, to be mainly about her, not a split 50-50, right? So I think they could have done a better job there, portray her more as the main hero instead of always being maybe a helper or maybe a second in command.
It always felt like she was Steve Trevor's sidekick, and he ordered her around a lot. He's always telling her what to do, and she can handle herself. She's very capable, and then she goes into this world, and she's very smart. She knows these things.
Some things, for sure, yeah.
She just doesn't know how people interact.
Yeah, cultural.
Right? Cultural.
Like for me, that's kind of, like, I'm okay with that because it makes sense to the storyline. She's stuck on this island. She's learned theoretical things about man and humankind, but she's experiencing for the first time. So it's like small fish, big pond kind of thing, right? Or, sorry, that's not the phrase. Small fish, big ocean? I think that's what it is. I don't know. My English idioms are terrible. But, like, a question is, like, was it necessary? Because we're talking talking about a relatively contentious issue, which kind of rides on the edge of, is this movie like displaying a strong, independent female character, or is it being sexist? Like we're kind of riding that edge right now, and I just got a question that, was it necessary to have a romantic interest in this? Was it necessary? I felt, from a movie standpoint, from just a regular movie standpoint, I understand why it was in there, but if because Wonder Woman seems like it's a female superhero, is this necessary?
I guess if you look at that time period, it's basically the women are kept down. It's mainly a boys' club kind of thing, right? So I guess it's in a way showing what it was back in the day, as well as kind of a reality check for her being grown up around women in her entire life. This is how the real world is, right?
Yeah, and I think that's even it's pretty historically accurate. It wasn't until World War II that women at that time entered the workforce, because all the men were gone for the war, that women played a part in the war. You have that famous poster of I can't think of the actual name of the poster, where you see a girl in I believe overalls and a bandana tied to her head, and she's flexing her arms to do her part in the war. So to that degree, but that was World War II. This is World War One, right? And she makes references and say, "Oh, how do females fight in here? Fight in these clothing," when she's buying new clothes, but obviously women never fought in the first two wars, right?
Well, so, looking at this movie, I don't think there's a sexist issue. The whole time period thing makes sense, why the men treat her or women like that. My issue was that it's a Wonder Woman movie about Diana, Princess Diana, and Steve Trevor felt like at least co-lead of the movie, when he should be more of the side character in a sense. The love interest does make sense for this origin story, because that's part of the source material. That's always been a thing. She is about love and hope and compassion, so it makes sense for the tone of the movie. It's just, the thing is, it seems like Steve Trevor has a lot more heroic situations than Wonder Woman does.
I can see, I can logically understand why, his character had to be, was portrayed the way he was, a little bit, very heroic, and it's to build that relationship that it's for character building. Clearly it's for character building, that why Steve Trevor was a hero as well, because it's he's fighting for a just cause. He's willing to sacrifice and do what it takes for the right cause, and that's kind of the persona Wonder Woman kind of carried in the movie. And then now you speak about love and about how love and peace, or love, hope, and justice, right? All those things would be embodied. So they have that kind of the way to connect, connect her, right? To him, and and gives her a emotional something to hang on to, inside this human world, because obviously she learns about the atrocities of mankind, but thanks to Chris Pine, Steve Trevor, all hope is not lost. That's what it felt like that was the reason why he was kind of in there.
Well, it's...
I don't agree with it at the end of the day.
Well, having him there is good, because it molds Diana to be Wonder Woman. Mm. So it does make sense. It's just, it's weird that they put so much of him.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that was kind of odd to me.
Yeah, I understand why they chose what they did to do, but as you said, the proportioning was and is questionable.
DC seems to have this cheesy thing, even though they want to go with a dark tone.
Well, they could have done it a few different ways, right? They could have Ares possess Steve and have Diana fight him and basically have a death that way, or maybe a different type of sacrifice, or even like more of a Joker-esque kind of scenario where you're like, oh, okay, are you going to defeat me or are you going to save him kind of deal, right? So
they had that moment in the movie where she looks at Steve in the sky and then looks at Ares, right?
Well,
Like,
she was tied down though, so she couldn't really do anything.
no. Just before that, before she got tied down, like she sees the plane go, like she clears her hearing. He runs to the plane. He goes on and do the whole thing, and he's in the air. And then she looks over to Ares, and he's coming out of the fire. Like there's that quick scene. Like it was very brief, but it had that moment of the Joker-esque moment. Choose your evil. Like choose which one you want to face, right?
But that's the thing. Like until you brought it up now, I didn't even think about that, and that just shows you. I don't think they tried to do that because it wasn't really.
It would if that was purposeful. It would have served no purpose.
Yes, because
right?
I bet you most people did not realize that's what could have been done.
All right. So after all this discussion, let's give it a rating. Individual ratings. Vic, you can start us off. What rating would you give this movie?
Okay, so I did enjoy the movie. Overall, I think that they could have done a lot better at the overall ending of the movie. To me, it was still an enjoyable movie. So for my rating, I give it 7 useless god killer swords out of 10.
I enjoyed it to a certain point. It had that DC lull that I can't get over, but I'm going to give it 6 gross lightning bolts out of 10.
It's a really great build-up. I was totally hooked onto it in the beginning, in the middle, but as everybody says here, ending was sort of the downfall for me. So I'm gonna give it 6 clay sculptures out of 10.
Yeah, our entire discussion, we kind of really just kind of harped on basically ending, and which is true, right? Like I think I totally agree that the ending kind of brought it down a bit, but the front half, like, does the part that wasn't the best part of the movie weigh the rest of the movie down? Personally speaking, I don't think so. I really enjoyed the beginning. I enjoyed the cinematography. I enjoyed the build-up, and I definitely enjoyed the action scenes. I'm gonna go a little bit higher. I'll give it. I think of some weird thing. I'll give it 8 out of 10. I don't have any kind of witty thing. It was 8 whips out of 10. Okay?
Lassos.
Lasso of truce out of 10.
Can we all agree that if it wasn't for that final act, we could easily give it at least 1 or 2 stars more?
Yeah, I would have given it.
Maybe not you, because you would be a perfect 10, and that's weird.
I'll give it a 9. I will give it a 9. It had some issues with well, if it fixed the pacing in the ending, I probably would give it a 9 out of 10, because it was really I was actually on the edge of my seat, kind of the same feeling when I watched some fewer other movies that I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, if they fixed the back end of it, I think I would probably give it even a 9 out of 10. Like, I'll give it 3 more points than what I initially gave, because it's just, if the ending was like a little bit off, it was okay, but I think it was just a huge problem for me. I just didn't feel that. I feel it was out of place, and all of a sudden it just went downhill from there.
It's just a huge letdown.
No, I would agree. Like, out of all the movies from this DC universe so far, like their cinematic universe or what they're trying to do with it, I would say it's probably one of the better movies out of all the ones that came out so far.
I think it's probably the best one so far.
Yeah,
right?
but like it's like all your friends telling you there's this great place for a great meal, and you go there, and it wasn't what you expected. And I think that build-up of the first 2/3 of the movie was like that. And then when you got the last third, was like you eating that meal and was like, nah, it wasn't that good. So it kind of just drags it down a little bit for me. That's all it was.
You think a 2.5 hour movie they could have done something a little different there, but they didn't.
Maybe next time.
All right, so this brings us to the end of our episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. If you really like what we do, please subscribe, follow us on our social media. If you think we should be discussing certain other topics more in depth or differently, just let us know in the comments. So thank you, and see you around.